Maybe you've had a conversation with your kids, or maybe someone that maybe just had a disagreement with, and you've said something like this: "Don't test my patience in this." And then what happens? Usually as human beings, we test patience. Hello, my name is Pastor Doug Thomas, and this is Coffee and Conversations. Well, welcome to today's Coffee and Conversations. This is, I believe, episode 3, and we want to thank you for joining us and being here. This is a moment where we get to take your questions of faith, God, the Bible, and we're able to just have a conversation about it. And if you have a question that you would like us to talk about, you can either put it in the comment sections below, or you can go right here to this email address, and you can email us your questions. So let's get into it today. Today's question is a great question. It's a question I believe that we all have asked at one point in our life, and we've all tried to answer, but sometimes our answers are just, we just don't understand it, and we have a hard time with it. So today's question is this: what is the difference between trusting God and testing God? Wow, it's a great question. What is the difference between trusting God and testing God? You know, as we begin to talk about this today, I think we need to know what these words mean and what is being said. You know, we are told to trust in God, right? Proverbs 3, chapter 3, verse 5 says to trust in God with all of our heart. Right? And Jesus would even reference this as well, where we are to trust in the Lord with all of our heart, soul, mind, and strength. That's in Deuteronomy as well. And we're told to trust in Him. What does that word mean? Well, the word that is used there means to rely on, right? To rely heavily on, to trust heavily in God. I kind of liken it to this chair that I'm sitting in right now, right? I'm trusting that it will not break right now, and I'm trusting that it's going to hold me up, and it's going to support all my weight, and my feet are off the ground, and I am fully trusting in the strength of this chair for me right now. And it's the same idea, you know, that we trust in God. We take our feet off the floor, we lean heavily upon Him, and we trust, God, you've got us, and you have me, and you have this whole situation, you have my whole life, everything. I am relying on you, and there is nothing else at this moment in my life. I am not relying on anything or anyone else, but only you. I trust in the Lord with all my heart, which is the passions that we talked about last week, the emotions. I trust in the Lord with all my mind, which is every thought that I have and everything that I go through. I trust in the Lord with all my strength, and so I rely on Him. But then there are verses in the Bible that talk about the testing of God, right? In fact, we're told many times, do not test the Lord your God. Yet there are some verses that tell us to test God. And what's the difference in that? Well, you know, over in Deuteronomy chapter 6, it says, do not put the Lord your God to the test. Psalm 95 would say the same thing as they're talking about the Israelites as they have walked through the desert. And he says, where your ancestors tested me, they tried me, even though they saw what I have done. They saw what I did. You know, and these words here of test and testing, when it says do not test the Lord your God, that Hebrew word that is there in Deuteronomy 6 literally means to look for imperfections or faults. So what God is telling us is do not test the Lord your God. Do not look for the imperfections, because quite frankly, you're not going to find any imperfections in God. Do not look for any faults in Him. And basically when we do that, I mean, we do that amongst humans to humans, don't we? Unfortunately, we're not supposed to. But when we do that, what we're kind of doing is we're putting God on trial. We're trying to bring ourselves up to the same level as God is. And we're trying to say, I know I have faults, I know I have imperfections. So we're putting God on trial. We're trying to figure out where his imperfections are, his faults are. And so we kind of, in essence, are really trying to make ourselves equal with God in that setting. And God says, do not put the Lord your God to the test. Do not put him on trial. Do not find his fault. Do not equal yourself there. And you might be thinking, but Doug, doesn't somewhere in the Bible talk to us about God tells us to put him to the test? Yeah, absolutely he does. In fact, it's over in Malachi chapter 3, verse 10, where God says, bring the whole tithe into the storehouse, that there may be food in my house. Test me in this. And then he goes on and he talks about, if you test me in this and you do what I've asked you to do, that I will throw open the floodgates of heaven and I will pour so much blessing out on you that you won't even be able to take it in. But God tells us right there to test him in this. And this word test is completely different than what the Deuteronomy word test is. The Deuteronomy word test, as you remember, was don't look for the faults and imperfections, don't equate. This word test, this Hebrew word in Malachi chapter 3, means to learn. To learn. I mean, God gives us permission to test him in this particular area of giving him our all, giving him our everything, including our finances and everything about us, and see if he will pour out that. He gives us permission to test him, to learn about him. See the difference? In Deuteronomy, the testing word is, I'm going to find a fault with you, and I'm going to put myself up on an equal level. In Malachi, this testing Hebrew word is, God, I want to learn from you. It's a totally different mindset. It's a completely different attitude. God, I want to learn. And God tells us to learn from him. Test him in these things. And when God gives you that permission to learn from him, to test him, that's what it's all going to be about, is to learn what he has for you. Sometimes my kids will come to me and they'll ask me, Dad, can I do, and whatever it is, can I do such and such? And sometimes my answer is yes, and sometimes my answer is no. And when I give them the no answer, sometimes they have said, well, why? And then they begin to question me a little bit. And one of the things that they're trying to do is they're trying to find the loophole. They're trying to trap me in my words. So let's find the holes in his logic. And let's just try to pull it out and say, well, see, you said this, so this must not apply over here, and so I can do what I want to do, right? But then there are other times when my kids come to me and they ask me if they could do something. And I might have said, yes, it's okay. And they've still looked at me and they've said, well, I don't know about that. I'm unsure about that. I'm not sure I can do that. And I've looked at them and I said, guys, it's okay. You can do that. I'm going to be right here alongside of you. Trust me. Learn from me. I'll be right here with you. It's okay if you do this. You see, one attitude was, well, I want to do what I want to do, and I'm going to find the loophole in it. And the other attitude is, Daddy, I just want to learn what I need to do. I want to trust in you and rely upon you. So that would be my word for you today, is to trust in God. Rely upon him. Don't look for the faults and imperfections. Don't look for your own stuff. Look at God. Look into him and trust him and rely upon him and learn from him. Thanks, guys, for joining us today for our coffee and conversations. We'll see you again on next week here, and hopefully Sunday morning in the service and right here on our social media sites. Thanks.